In this video tutorial, I'm going to explain firewall rules and port forwarding. Hello and welcome back to my channel. So since we are working on firewall related stuff on my previous video as well, and I wanted to show because I had some of emails from my community, I'm going to say from my family, because I have this YouTube family and which is growing and I love it. So they wanted to know, can you explain rules and how they work? So this is going to be a basic understanding of firewall rules and how we can set up port forwarding and what's the difference. So uh, to explain this, I'm going to say firewall actually is your house security guard, or you can consider a bouncer outside of a club. So you tell, or you can say the owner tell the bouncer who can go out, who can go in, and what they're allowed to do. So this is the simplest explanation of firewall rules. So we define on firewall rules like what traffic can go out, what traffic can get in. So firewall rules are almost same on every other firewalls, either it's pfSense or OpenSense or any other. There are like thousands of different brands, but all the rules works in the same way. So pfSense I prefer using because it has this best feature, but like most of them have this feature nowadays. Like by default, everything is blocked. If you can see my mouse on the firewall logs, you can see there's like thousands of dropped packages because there are like so many robots online. They're trying to access your network. If it's wide open, like there is no firewall, then definitely you are in danger. Your server, anything inside your network is not safe. To make it secure, we use firewall. Okay, so now let's discuss about firewall rules. So there are two kinds of rules you can consider: inbound and outbound. And what does that mean? To show you that, here I have a traffic grapher. You can see when is considered inbound, that means traffic coming from outside of your network. Like if somebody from some other country is trying to access your computer, that's going to be inbound traffic. And if you are trying to access a website which is not in your network, it's outside of your network, let's say in some server is sitting in some other city, some other country, or wherever in the world, that's outbound from your LAN. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you the page of firewall rules. Click on firewall and then rules. For you, the first page could be like totally empty. There are no rules, but it could be like several rules if you have set up different services and you don't know what they're doing on backend. Because if you configure any service on pfSense, they automatically do generate some rules. And under firewall rules, you can see we have 5 options: floating, WireGuard, WAN, LAN, and OpenVPN. You can ignore WireGuard and OpenVPN if you're not using the VPN. These two won't be appeared on this one. And floating is also something advanced. We are going to talk about WAN and LAN. So from WAN, you can see I have several rules and these are all allowed. So what I'm doing here, I'm allowing outbound traffic to get into my network to use blah 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 services, and I have mentioned all in the rules. So first of all, I'm gonna show you just one rule and for HTTPS. Okay, so as I clicked on edit, you can see the action is pass. So by default, we get 3 kind of actions: allow, block, or reject. And then we have interface. I'll come back to what that means by block and reject. And then we have interface, address assembly, protocol. First, I want to show you all that stuff, and then I'll go back again. And then we have protocol, source, destination, and the description. It's really simple. Not a rocket science. Okay. So pass means we are allowing the traffic. Okay. One more time, as I told you earlier, if we are allowing inbound traffic on WAN, that means somebody outside of our network can access resources in our network. So I'm passing. So if I select block, that means I'm blocking outbound traffic, which is by default is blocked. So that's why we need to pass this traffic, allow the traffic. Or otherwise, if I want to do like 100% be sure I really want this IP address to be blocked, then we can do block as well. So what we do when we are blocking, if we select this path, that means the sender packet will be received and it will be allowed in our network. If I do block, that means the sender packet will be like disappeared. The sender will not know what happened on the other side. But if I do reject, that means I'm sending the packet back to the sender. So that way sender knows, oh, my packet was rejected. And if you see this description, you can understand even much better. Okay, so the second thing is disable. If you want this rule in your firewall, but you want to keep it disabled, you can check this box and save it. Okay, interface, which is like very important. Since we are doing this on WAN interface, it's already selected WAN. And then what next you want? Address family. It's asking if it is related to IPv4, IPv6, or both. You can select whatever you want. And then under protocol, you can select TCP or TCP UDP, whatever is your matching criteria is. And then the source address. So here you can set a source address. Like let's say one of your friend is living in Canada and he has the address of 173.12.15.11, and that's the public IP address. And you only want that person to allow a specific server or any device in your home network or inside your network. Then you can specify that public address here. Instead of any, you can select the address, and then in the destination you can specify a whole network, like you can access a complete network, or you can specify just one IP address. So this is one page, or you can consider my Nginx server, which is like a test server, and this one is allowed from anywhere, from any network. So I selected the port. It's only allowed on 443. So if you try to access as it's installed on Ubuntu, you won't be able to access using the SSH because SSH is not allowed. Only allowed port is 443. And then I have set the description, which is net. Okay, so let's test out this rule. So since I am already inside the network, I will have to go outside of this network. So I'm gonna just go into a different network and I'm gonna open a Google Chrome window. It's on the other screen. Okay, so I'm gonna type here my address, which is this 216.244.70.12. If I hit enter, you can see it's showing me the congratulations page, which is the Nginx page, because this one is allowed. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going back into my RDP session, and then I'm going to block it, and I'll save the settings. Okay, and then I have another rule for the same one, which is using the port 80. And I'm going to do block this one as well. You can see it's for port 80. And then I'm going to hit save and apply changes. Now you can see this can't be reached. So that means uh, that's how we can block any outbound traffic to get into your network. Okay, so this was the method of allowing access or blocking access for the people who are outside of your network. What if you want to block something for the people who are inside the network so they cannot go to a specific destination? For that, we need to use the LAN. Here we add a rule. Whatever IP address we want to block, we can just select block, and then interface will be LAN, and this will be the IP family. If you know IPv6 and IPv4 both addresses, you can choose both, or if you know if it's IPv4 and the port number, if you're not sure for the port number, you can just select any. And then source will be your LAN subnet, and then the destination will be the address or the alias you want to set. Let's say you want to block youtube.com, then you need to create alias into the aliases and then define youtube.com. Let me just quickly show you how you do that. So you click on add, and then here you can add host, let's say www.youtube.com, and then make sure you select hosts, because for this one you just define fqdn and it automatically resolves the IP address, and then you need to set a name and just click on save. And then under rules, under LAN rules, you add a new rule from here, and then you define in the destination what alias you want to add, and then the port number. Let's say if you want to set port 443 or port 80, you can define that, or you can do any if you're not sure about port, and then just give it a description that this description means you will be able to see on the rules page like what this rule is for. If you're blocking YouTube, blocking Facebook, or anything like that, so you can do this from here as well. Okay, so now let's jump to the port forwarding section. What exactly is port forwarding? So port forwarding means you are just forwarding something to a different location. So let's say you used to live in, let's say, Los Angeles, and then you moved to New York, and you just set a forwarder service on USPS that if any mail goes to that address, it should be forwarded to my new address, which is in New York. So that forwarder is actually, you can consider as port forwarding. So you have only one public address. You can consider that as yourself. So you can be available on both locations, right? Okay, so now let's consider, I'm going to go into NAT. That's where you configure the port forwarding stuff. And then I'm going to click on add. Okay, so it's going to be always interface WAN. Why? Because if you have to access anything from outside of your network and you only have one public IP address, so either you can assign it to only one device. Let's say you have 10 printers, 10 web servers, or there are like media servers, stuff like that. You can't have like all these devices have one public IP addresses. That way you need like multiple public addresses and stuff. So for that, you use a forwarder service that can forward your traffic exactly where you want it to be, like as your location in New York. So uh, I'm gonna show you one rule so that way I can actually define you, and I'm gonna show you the exact one what we just checked. Okay, so the top one is if you want to disable this one, not RDR. I have never used this, but if you can see the description, but if you just leave it as it is, it doesn't matter. Okay, so what we're defining here, we're gonna define the interface where the traffic is going to come from, and then what would be the traffic and where it should be forwarded to. So I said if traffic comes on WAN and if it's for IPv4 and it's TCP, and destination is WAN address as well. So destination means what I typed in the browser. I typed my browser, my WAN address in the browser, and I set up HTTPS. And as I typed my public address, it automatically forwarded to 10.0.0.4. Let me show you one more time. So if I minimize this session and I closed Chrome browser, let me just show you with my public IP address and the local IP address as well. So if I type here my public IP address, you can see this page. Congratulations, you successfully started Nginx Proxy Manager. And then I'm going to go back into my RDP session. And so since this is the local one, and as I typed the WAN address, it forwarded to 10.0.0.4. I'm going to just show you this page. You can see it's the same page. So that means our forwarding is working, and that's how the forwarding works. So you define for what port and where do you want to forward this traffic to. So let's say if I select any other port, if I know, or if I'm doing, let's say, any email server, I want to use IMAP, and I have a different server and with a different IP address, let's say for 40, I have IMAP, then that traffic specifically for IMAP will be forwarded to this IP address in your LAN network. So that way you can allow the access from outside to your network. Let's say you have a VPS server or a dedicated server where you install Proxmox or any other hypervisor, and you have multiple machines but only one IP address. But you do actually want to access with with your one public IP address. So that's how you do it. You use the port forwarding method. I hope I have explained this into very basic method. I tried my best, but still, if you have any questions, any concerns, you can just comment below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.